It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege and honor to interview the U.S. Olympic Biathlon, Deedra Irwin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in the sport of biathlon?
It actually was a chance opportunity for me. I was just about to retire from professional Nordic skiing, and my teammate and now best friend Joanne Reed reached out to me, and she had been doing biathlon for a couple years, and she was like, why retire when you can come hang out with me? So I decided to go to a talent ID camp with US Biathlon, where they taught me how to shoot a rifle, and I just fell in love with it from there. And I figured I might as well try 1 year. I gave myself 1 year to try it out, and that 1 year turned into 4 plus more. We're going for more, I think.
Of course, what was it like in high school going in the Nordic skiing?
It was difficult to start as a high schooler. I didn't start skiing, and I didn't even realize it was a competitive sport until I was about 16 years old. Before that, I was a very competitive runner in both track and field and cross country, and I dabbled in swimming and basketball and, a few other sports. But Nordic skiing did not start out easy for me at 16. I think I was a sophomore in high school, but anybody who knows me knows I love a challenge. And it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And I just fell in love with it. I loved everything about it. And I just kept coming back every year for more, even into college and after college. And even now, I can't stop skiing.
Of course, what was it like going from skiing Nordic style to getting into the biathlon?
It was difficult. In Nordic skiing, you kind of just try to redline and go as fast as you can the entire time and just see how long you can make it and how long you can hold on to the lead pack. And in biathlon, you have to try and do that, but also have some finesse and be able to shoot in the middle of your race. So for me, it took me a while to learn how to really control what level I was in leading up to shooting, making sure that I didn't come into the range too hard, otherwise it was making shooting harder for me. And as I've progressed in the sport, it's again just trying to find that finesse between the two different sports. I mean, it's Nordic skiing and it's precision shooting. So finding that balance between the two, and how efficient and fast can you get in Nordic skiing, but also how controlled and precise can you be in the shooting.
How did your time in Nordic skiing help you into where you are now as a biathlon?
Oh, it's helped me a ton. I mean, I was able to come into biathlon already having a lot of race experience and having a lot of technique experience and a lot of, just baseline fitness. It wasn't too hard of a switch to come over to biathlon, except for, like I said, learning that finesse and then obviously picking up a whole nother sport of precision shooting.
How was it like in 2017 traveling to Itia and going to the European Championship?
That was crazy for me. I mean, I'd only been doing biathlon at that point for about maybe 3 or 4 months. So to qualify for my first international competition so quickly and then go to Italy, I think my first race was an individual. So you shoot 4 times. And I think I missed 50% of my targets. So I did absolutely terrible. But I learned so much from that one race that I was able to come back a weekend after European champs in Italy. And I was able to then shoot 19 for 20, I think, in one of my first pursuits, which was really cool for me. I mean, there's so much you can learn in just one weekend of racing. So that was a really really neat experience for me. One of my first actually it was my first international competition in biathlon, and it really just lit this fire for biathlon for me, and made me really want to train and come back for more.
How did the 2017 International European Championship help you to the 2019 one that you did?
I mean, every competition you can learn so much. So every time you can get on a start line, and every time you can try a different race, or, go to a different venue, is a way for you to learn. So I think I saw a quote from someone recently. They're like, I don't win or lose races. I win or I learn. And so I thought it was really interesting, because it's like every single time I've been able to get into a biathlon race, I've just learned from every single race and every moment I've been able to race in.
Was in the 2019, what was it like going to the Biathlon National Championship?
It's always cool to go to US Biathlon National Championships, because everybody in the US, all the masters, all the juniors, everybody at every level can join together at US Nationals. So that's always a fun event. It's more of like a party than it is, a very competitive event. Obviously, we're all very competitive athletes, so we try hard to, race against each other. But it's always fun when we're able to have a US Nationals event and to be able to all get together and race together.
What was that like, obviously, having the Olympians, the juniors, and the national team all together in that one event?
It's always fun. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, especially now that I've become an Olympian, is inspire younger athletes to pursue their dreams. Because when I was younger, I didn't necessarily want to be an Olympic biathlete. I, always had this dream of being a professional athlete and more of an Olympic runner. I loved running. I loved track and field. So to now be in this position where I've switched sports multiple times throughout my life, and to be able to show up to these events and be an Olympian and be on the national team and see the youth coming up and try to inspire them and try to show them, that, if you chase your dreams, if you stick with it long enough, if you work hard enough, that, you could also be that person in 20 years and, be the person inspiring the next generation.
How was it like getting to travel to Slovakia in 2019 for the IBU Cup?
Slovakia was really cool. I really liked seeing all the different countries. So Slovakia, I think, was in Ozerby. It was one of the first races that I did really well in on the IBU Cup. I think I got 6th in one of the races. And for me, that was just a really cool experience, because it was, one of those races where you don't really expect a lot from yourself. You're just sort of going through the motions, and you're just, doing what you do at every day at practice, trying to hit the targets, trying to ski fast. And that was a super neat experience for me to place in, I think, 6th place I got, and to, that was one of my moments where I finally believed that I made it as a biathlete. And so that venue and that day will always hold a special place in my heart.
How was it like training and preparing for the Olympics, going into the Olympics, competing in biathlon?
It's a bumpy road. I think everybody's Olympic journey, you could say, especially an Olympic year, is stressful and it's chaotic, and it's, you want it to be super smooth and super easy, but it never will be. So for me, there were a lot of ups and downs going into it. First I just had to qualify for the World Cup, which is a long, treacherous road. And then having to, try to do well enough at the World Cup to try to qualify for the Olympics, then ending up at Olympic trials and having to go through a 5-race series just to solidify my spot on the team. I mean, there's so much that goes along with it. It's such a long road. And, every time you have a little ache or a pain, you're wondering if that is, is this the thing that's going to hold me back? I know right before the season last year in August, I crashed on my mountain bike and separated my shoulder. And it was one of those things where I kind of was like, my Olympic dream is over, and it was a lot for me to come back and to convince myself okay, no, I can get healthy. I can get strong enough. I can get to this season, and I just have to just get to the Olympics, just try to perform as well as I can. So the Olympic journey for any sport is always pretty treacherous, but when you're able to get through it and then look back on it, it's so rewarding. All the sacrifice and all the trauma and stress and everything that goes along with it. You look back, and I learned so much from specifically from Olympic year and from the Olympic trials and going through that process.
Of course, as you said, how did it help you and not stop you from making your dream into the Olympics after your tragic motorcycle accident?
It was actually a mountain biking accident. I don't ride a motorcycle. I'm not that cool. But I think I learned a lot from that. You know, I learned a lot of how to train really smart, even with an injury, and try to work on the things that I could control, like my shooting, like, you know, my skiing to a certain point. Like I learned a lot about myself, you know, my resilience, and, you know, learning how to train through an injury like that is tough, but I think it's going to really help me going forward. And, you know, I'm almost healed, almost.
What was that feeling like when you made the Olympic team going to Beijing?
It was more of a relief than excitement, I will say. I was kind of, because of all of the, like I said, the stress that comes along with having to go through Olympic trials. It was when they finally announced the team, it was kind of more of like a, whew, I did it, instead of like a, yeah, you know, that came much later for me, at least. For me, it was finally like I was able to like relax, and I was able to sleep a little bit sounder. And I was able to kind of like process all of the stuff that I'd just gone through, and, you know, leading up to the Olympics, you know, try to figure out like, you know, how much more mental energy I had, and like how to get into the right mindset for the Olympics after having to go through such a long trials process.
What's that feeling like when you got that Team USA gear in the mail and you saw that your name was on it?
It was really cool. I think that was definitely one of the moments that I'll never forget, kind of being able to wear all of this Team USA gear that all these other famous athletes that I know in other sports are also getting. Kind of being part of that collective was a really cool experience, being part of, you know, something bigger than just biathlon. I think that was probably one of the coolest parts of the Olympics for me, and being part of Team USA, is it wasn't just Team USA biathlon. It was Team USA snowboard, skiing, bobsled, biathlon. You know, I still have a handful of clothes that I like to wear around, and it's, you know, it's definitely an honor and really cool.
Of course, when the team was announced, what was the feeling like getting to practice and be alongside some of the people?
But it's always cool to race alongside your teammates, especially when you've all worked so hard for a certain goal. So yeah, I mean, it's such a hard thing to explain, because, you know, you all work so hard and you all try to make it to this level, and when you're finally able to, you know, be on that range and be at that venue with people you've been training so hard with and trying to reach this goal with, there are definitely a lot of moments where, you know, we were able to kind of try to breathe it all in, but also, you know, get back to work, get to our goals.
Of course, when you were in Beijing, what was it like competing in Beijing at the biggest stage of them all, at the Olympics?
Man, I mean, it's crazy to look back on. I definitely was a little underwhelmed at first. You know, it's like there wasn't a lot of fans because of COVID, and it was sort of like, it looks like every other venue. But that first race that I was able to do, when I put on that race bib and got to that start line, the entire time I just kept thinking, like, don't cry in front of everybody, like, keep it together, get to the start line without crying. I mean, it was such an emotional experience for me. I, you know, had been working and had this Olympic dream ever since I was a kid, you know, like I said, more in track and field than skiing, but to still be able to put on that bib with the Olympic rings and walk into the venue and hear my name announced for Team USA. I mean, it was a very emotional experience for me. And yeah, it still feels like a dream sometimes.
What was that feeling like when you finally lived out your dream to make it to the Olympics?
It was incredible. I mean, like I said, it was so emotional. I had to like physically tell myself not to like cry on the start line. And then in my first race, I had the race of my life and ended up, you know, placing so high. It's still unreal for me to say I have like the 7th place finish in one of these races. And I got done with the race, and that's when I finally let myself get super emotional. And I'm sure everybody can look up the interviews of me bawling my eyes out when they announced my finish. And it's still just such a cool experience to look back on. Sometimes I watch the videos and I feel like I'm like, obviously I'm outside my body. Like I'm like, oh man, look at her. It doesn't feel like it happened to me sometimes.
Of course, for my listeners that don't know, what is biathlon and how do you compete in it?
So biathlon is the combination of skate skiing, so the skate skiing on the Nordic skiing side, and precision shooting. So we ski anywhere from 6 kilometers to 15 kilometers, depending on which race we're doing. And we'll stop and shoot either, 2 to 4 times, also depending on what race we're doing. We ski around with a modified 22 long rifle on our backs, usually made by a company called Anschutz out of Germany. And we shoot, a bullet about the size of your pinky nail onto a target that's 50 meters away. And when we're shooting prone, we're laying down on our stomachs and we're shooting a target that's about the size of an Oreo. That's, again, 50 meters, about half a football field away. And then in standing, we're obviously standing up, and we shoot targets that are about the size of like a CD-ROM or a small pancake. And, and then we try to hit them all, obviously, in like about 30 seconds, very fast time, while we're breathing heavy. And then we ski away and we, try to race as hard as we can. So also depending on the race, if you miss a target, there's either a penalty loop or there's a time penalty. So it's a very exciting race. I highly recommend people to check it out on YouTube.
Of course, during that process, what is it like, obviously, skiing down the slopes and then quickly getting into position to get your rifle to shoot, either laying down or standing up?
It's something that we practice year round. So it's almost second nature to us at a certain point. And depending on the course, sometimes you're like in Beijing, we had a huge downhill corner coming into the range. So that was actually a pretty easy range approach for everyone. You're able to get your heart rate down, and then you just have to try and control your speed going into the mat. And like I said, we practice year round on our range procedure, learning how to take off the rifle in the most efficient way and opening our sights and loading our magazines. There's so many little parts that go around with that, and we make it look way too smooth on TV. So it's a lot of little things that we practice year round to try and get good at. So we make it look easy, but I'll say it's when I was first learning it, it took me a long time to figure out how to do it quickly.
What are some of the things that you've learned so far in biathlon, coming from obviously your track and field experience and your Nordic experience?
I've learned how to be a lot more forgiving of my results because it's such a different sport, because you have two largely different aspects going from skiing to shooting. You have to be a little more forgiving when you have a bad shooting day. You could have the ski race of your dreams and you miss one too many targets and you're off the podium. So I've learned a lot of how to, embrace the really good moments in a race and learn from the really bad moments. And so biathlon has taught me a lot about, having respect for the sports I'm doing. In running, it was pretty easy to know, like, if you're going to have a good day. It's same with skiing. You start, you hold on, and you hope you finish first. And in biathlon, there's just so many other aspects to it. You can start hard, but then, if you shoot really poorly in your first shooting stage, you need to be able to, concentrate enough to come back and try to ski fast and then clean the rest of your stages. There's so many different aspects to biathlon that you really learn how to forgive yourself for the little parts that you're messing up and learn from those and bring that knowledge into your next race.
So what are some of your favorite memories and moments in the U.S. biathlon?
Oh man, I would have to say my first flower ceremony for sure in Slovakia when I got 6th place on the Ibu Cup. That was really cool. Also, probably the couple of relays that I've been in with the U.S. Biathlon women. One year we placed 6th in the Czech Republic, and that was the first time we had, gotten in the top 6, I think, in like 20 some years. And then this past year we answered with that and we got a 5th place. And that was just incredible to be able to finish so high and improve on, you know, an already amazing result that we had. And then obviously my 7th place at the Olympics in the individual will forever be a very emotional memory for me, to be able to go into such a big world stage and have the best race of my career, and the best place in US biathlon history at the Olympics, was just, yeah, unreal. And like I said, it still feels like a dream some days.
Of course, what is that feeling like being down in history for obviously the US biathlon having the best career finish?
Yeah, like I said, it's doesn't feel real to me still sometimes, you know, when I hear people say it, it's like, I mean, I was there, it happened, but it's so crazy. You know, it's in biathlon, it's so hard to have just like a really perfect day. There's so many, like I said, aspects to it, between the skiing and the skis themselves, the snow, the shooting, the wind. So to be able to have that result and have that historic day at the Olympics, for me, wow. I mean, I'm still still pretty emotional about it. And I'm just hoping that it inspires more people to get into biathlon, to, you know, show up to a start line and just believe in yourself and just work really hard. Cause I didn't do anything different on that day than I do on any other day. It just sort of came together for me. And I'm hoping that it shows that, you know, if you just give yourself a chance, if you just, like I said, show up to the start line and know that you're prepared for whatever moment, you could have a really crazy Olympic moment like I did.
Of course, how does it feel to have Olympian Biathlon behind your last name?
It's crazy. I mean, again, you work so hard. I've worked my entire, you know, adult life to, you know, just be really good at sports and, you know, to have that, you know, hope that I would make the Olympics. And so to finally have that title, have that, you know, family, I guess, that Olympic, I'm part of this Olympic family now. It's really a surreal experience. And I'll cherish it for a very long time. And I hope I can continue to hold up the Olympic legacy that so many Olympians have before me.
Of course, what was that feeling like standing beside the Olympic rings, knowing that all of your hard work paid off?
Amazing. I mean, I think every Instagram post I think I did at the Olympics was just a bunch of thank yous. Thank you to my family and my friends for understanding the sacrifice. You know, thank you to my coaches and my teammates for, you know, always pushing me. And so I think it's, you know, you get to that moment and you want to perform, you want to do well. And then to be able to share that moment with so many people who have been such a big part of the journey. And I think that's what the biggest part for me about the Olympics was, is, yeah, I made it as me as an athlete, but it took so much to get there. It took so much family sacrifice, friends, teammates, coaches. It's just incredible, like, to be able to, yeah, to stand next to those Olympic rings and really reflect and cherish all of the hardships, all of the failures, all the successes that kind of led to that moment.
Who are some influential people in your career, and who are some of the people that you look up to in the biathlon community?
Influential people in my career. I mean, I've always had such amazing teammates and I've had amazing coaches along the way who have inspired me. A lot of the people that I've looked up to have had direct influence on me. I've had amazing mentors, my high school ski coach, my college ski coach, college teammates who, you know, would always push me at practice, especially when I was still, you know, pretty much a rookie when I first started skiing in college. And I had so many upperclassmen take me under their wing and really mentor me and embrace, you know, the fact that I was so new and really help me become, you know, the athlete that I am today. And that hasn't changed for every team I've been on. So I joined biathlon and Joanne just immediately took me under her wing and helped me out in any way she could. And my coach Armin, one of the things he always says is, like, I believe in your skills. You know, you just have to believe in your skills. And so I've had so many amazing mentors. It's so hard to pick just a few people that I look up to, because I look up to all the people around me, even at training, all of my teammates. When they're having bad days, just seeing them push through that. And, you know, it really inspires me to get out there and train even when I'm tired and I'm cranky and I don't really want to sometimes. So I really look up to my team and my coaches and everything like that. I'm a huge track and field fan, so there's so many track and field athletes that I always look up to and have inspired me. And watching the Summer Olympics, the summer right before the Winter Olympics, was so cool. I don't think they should ever put them back to back like that again. It's probably pretty stressful for the Olympic Committee, but it was really cool being able to watch the Summer Olympics last year as I was training for the Winter Olympics. To kind of, was able to light that fire, able to see all those inspirational stories. I remember watching Molly Seidel get third place in the marathon, and she is just one of my heroes. I think, she's just so cool, and she, I think our stories are pretty similar. She just like got on the start line, gave herself a chance, and was just like, I'm going to hang out with the lead pack and see what happens. And she was able to medal in her first Olympics. I mean, it's so unreal, all the Olympic stories that always come out. So I'm inspired by so many people in my life physically, and then also people I get to watch from a distance who pursue their dreams in a very similar way that I can.
Of course, what are some of your future plans in the sport of biathlon?
I'm in the Army National Guard as a biathlete, so as a soldier athlete, and I have another 3 years on my contract. So I'll be continuing to do biathlon into the 2026 Olympics. As long as my body holds up and I can stay healthy and happy. So my plans are definitely just to keep doing biathlon and keep doing this sport that I've fallen, crazily in love with. So after biathlon, I'm not really sure. I think I'm very passionate about coaching and inspiring the next generation. So if there's any way that I can give back to the biathlon community or the ski community or the running community, I'm sure I'll figure out a way to do that once I retire.
Of course, how has it been like obviously working in the military and obviously training to be a biathlon Olympian?
It has, it's, conflicts a little bit, but the military has been so supportive. I honestly would not have climbed so quickly in biathlon if I hadn't joined the, National Guard biathlon program. They were able to take a lot of different stressors off of my, list of being a professional athlete. I didn't have to, worry about, funding my training, and I have a world-class training facility that I'm able to go to every day that I can live at in Vermont. So it's been a huge help for me. And basic training is hard, but that's something you just have to go through. So and then when I'm able to go to my unit and I'm able to perform as a soldier, I definitely do my best to represent my unit and my country in the best way I can as a soldier.
Of course, what was that like, obviously representing the country, not just as an athlete, but also as a soldier in the Olympics?
It was really cool. There were a lot of different soldier athletes that were at the Olympics, and, it's a nice little close niche community. And to be able to, for 3 years now, be able to represent my country as a soldier and a part of the U.S. biathlon team, and now to also be able to represent my country as an Olympian, it just adds to the pride that I have for being an American and being able to defend and represent my country in the best way that I know how.
Great advice. That's great. What advice would you give future people that are looking to get into the sport of biathlon?
Give it a try. I mean, it's so cool. Give yourself a chance. There's so many clubs and so many opportunities throughout, the U.S. And if you just do enough research, I think US Biathlon page has, a list of all the clubs that are certified. It's really fun. It's a lifelong sport. I mean, Nordic skiing is a lifelong sport, and, shooting is a little hard to do. Every once in a while, you got to find the right place to do it. But I guarantee once people try it, they're going to get hooked just like me.
What advice would you give future biathlon people looking to make it to the Olympics, whether it's their first time like you did or multiple times?
Give yourself a chance. I mean, when I look back at how I stumbled upon this sport and how I've kind of stumbled upon most of the sports that I've done throughout, my life. It's kind of just been a moment where I've just walked up to a start line and gave myself a shot and kind of just to see where it goes. So for people who are passionate and like to work hard and, love sports and love biathlon, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, I think I've proved that in 4.5 years, I was able to go from never doing biathlon to, making the Olympics and having a crazy standout finish. So I think it just comes down to, giving yourself a chance, believing in your skills, and, working hard and, chasing the dream.
Of course, what advice would you give people that are transitioning from either going like how you did to track and field to biathlon, and just transitioning from sport to sport?
Definitely go easy on yourself. It's not easy to switch sports completely. There's a huge learning curve in whatever you do. So you need to, realize where your strengths are and, realize where your weaknesses are, and be humble in the experience and trying to figure out how to navigate and how to get better at the sport. So when I first joined, biathlon, it was pretty easy for me to ski, but I still had a long way to go in my skiing. I still had a lot to learn in my skiing. So taking the advice of others and learning from their experiences and really trying to just find your own path in whatever sport you choose. It's never easy to switch, but it's fun. And you can just sort of add to the skills that you have.
Of course, what advice would you give people such as yourself that are in the military, that are representing the military on the military side, but also as an Olympian in the military?
I think that, anybody who's joined the military, we learn this sense of pride in our country and in our history and everything like that. So I think there's not much advice I would give to other soldier athletes. I think they all kind of feel the same way I do. We feel a ton of pride in what we do and how we do it, and who we're representing, not only in the military, but in our country. So not much advice, just to kind of keep doing what you're doing and keep representing in a positive light.
What advice would you give future people that are looking to get into the sport of biathlon?
Give it a try. I mean, it's fun. There's a lot of different clubs that you can try it out at, and it's a fun sport. Nordic skiing is a lifelong sport, and biathlon just adds a little pizzazz to it. So I think there's a lot of masters out there in the biathlon community who I've developed great relationships with. They're huge supporters of biathlon, and I'd love to see more people out there cheering us on and being part of our community.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
My Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, I think, are all the same handle. It's at Deedra Blue, DeeDraBlu. And yeah, I'm usually mostly on Instagram, but I like to dabble in the other two too. So
thank you again, Deedra Irwin, for your interview, and best luck in your future in the military, serving our country, along with obviously being a biathlon athlete.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Deedra, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free